Hello everyone and welcome to Metro Matters. I'm Mary Sitt. If you've been downtown recently, you may have noticed our wrapped trains. The latest one is a wrapped train by Reliant Energy promoting free rides on one of home games of the Houston Texans. There's also a green wrapped train showcasing the museum district. These wrapped trains are just one way we are now partnering with the community. Here to tell us more is Metro's President and CEO, George Greanias. Thanks so much for being with us, George.
Glad to be here, Mary.
So why are we doing these wrapped trains? They look fabulous, I think.
Well, go back to our operating principles. We have our priorities. We have three of them. One is to deliver first-class transit services. Another one is to build great transit infrastructure, which includes but isn't limited to the rail. And the third is to be a trusted community partner. That's very important for us. Metro serves most of Harris County, small parts of other counties surrounding us, but our region is really 8 to 13 counties. So we need to be partnering with people outside our service area to make sure that we create a regional transit system. We also need to be partnering with people inside our service area to promote transit, to make sure we have the most effective transit system possible. What we're doing with these wrapped trains is another example of partnership. We started out by wrapping a train for ourselves, or for the community, with the red safety train.
The Stop Think
train, which got a lot of attention, does exactly what it's intended to do. But then we were approached by the museum district, a consortium of the museums in the Rice Herman Park Museum area. And we now have a train which promotes the museum district and the many museums over there. It's a great venue for culture and for learning about everything from art to history to natural science. So we have that train, which is green and purple, the major colors in it, which are the museum district's colors. And then more recently, we were approached by Reliant. Reliant was changing its logo and wanted to make sure people knew about the change, but we wanted to promote ridership on the train. And it's a great example of a win-win. What Reliant has agreed to is not only did they pay for the wrap on the train, but on game days, on Texan game days here at home, they're paying for everybody who rides the train on those Sundays. So it's free to the public because
all day on that day.
All day long.
That's
because
great.
Reliant is picking the tab up. So what we're doing with this partnership is to promote transit, promote transit usage, and that's all part of expanding the world of transit for Houston. And we need to do that, again, not by ourselves. We need to do that in partnership with other folks.
So this is a good way to introduce the train and riding Metro to people who probably never would get on it. They go, hey, free ride, let's try it.
There's a little barrier in anything that's new for someone. And if they haven't tried the train, they're going to say, well, like, where do I pay? Where do I catch it? Will it take me where I need to go? How do I know where I am on the route? Think of yourself, if you went to New York or to Chicago or some other big city, you've never ridden their transit system before, you'd have exactly the same questions.
Now last summer we also had the HCC Ensemble Theater partnership where we had actual actresses from a play who actually sang on the platform, right?
And it was very, very successful. I think it probably startles some of the passengers.
Right.
But it's interesting how people will get used to that very quickly and then they really have a good time with it. Certainly the ridership numbers that we're seeing indicates that a lot of Houstonians feel very comfortable using the train.
Can you tell me some other ways we're partnering, not only with internally, like you said, with the museum districts and with Reliant, but also with other agencies? Can you talk about that?
Well, one example we actually did last year, just after I got here, MD Anderson, of course, has a great cancer treatment program, including their treatment programs for children. And they have a Christmas card program that they use to raise funds for the programs. We partnered with them last year. We took one of their Christmas cards the kids had done and put a wreath around it. It was a train.
Good.
So we set it out. And then the kids came out, some of the cancer patient kids came out to the rail operating center a few months back, and they got to learn about how we run the train system. They got to sit in the simulator, which trains you how to run with the train. So that's a great partnership. Another one, Methodist Hospital gave free physicals to kids who were going to participate in sports in the public schools this fall. Back in the summertime, we partnered with them to provide bus passes so kids could get to the health fair, and get those physicals.
And our basic message is transit is useful and it's easy and try it. Is that it?
Absolutely. And all those kids who used it that day to go get their physicals also learned probably about, oh, I can ride the bus to school, I can ride the bus to get around. It's not that hard, it's not that expensive, especially with the student discount. It's a pretty good deal.
Sounds good. We need to take a little break right now, but we'll be right back with more from George Greanias, Metro's President and CEO. Stay with us.
This is how we roll. We got a pencil sharp and dropping rhymes like Lonely Island. buses under 10, they call us living legends. Driving on the freeway's just too much fuss. Pay your fare, you're almost there, now gonna board the bus.
What? Were you expecting the frog?
We've been talking with George Greanias, Metro's president and CEO, about one of our operating principles and priorities, partnering. Can you give us an update now about what's happening with our light rail construction?
Well, actually, the light rail construction is going very, very well. The only good thing about the drought that we've all been experiencing and suffering from, and actually the only thing I can think of, has been it's been great for construction. So we've been getting back on schedule. You know, we had to slow up last year when our federal funding was in doubt because of the rail car controversy. Now that that's been settled and it's clear that we're going to get the federal funding, we're rapidly getting back to a schedule that hopefully get closer to the original construction completion dates. So on the North Line, we're moving forward on the line that extends Main Street all the way up to the North Line Community College. The Harrisburg line is coming along very nicely, and in fact, you can see track out there.
Wow.
That's on the ground, it's already in place.
That's pretty exciting. Real track
exciting.
in the ground.
And a lot of the paving work along certain stretches is completely finished. So we're now just into the middle area where we'll be doing the actual track laying. And then the southeast line.
That's the East End line, right,
the
George?
East End
You say
line,
Harrisburg.
right.
Okay,
That's
East
the
End.
line that goes straight on Harrisburg out to ultimately the Magnolia Transit Center.
Okay.
And then the southeast line, which will start on the west side of downtown in the Theater District area, cross Main Street, go by Dynamo, the new stadium, and then we'll go out southeast to TSU, University of Houston, and all the way out to the Eastwood Transit Center, is also coming along well. And again, there's track that's been laid there. That track that's been laid has been the first track in 10 years for light rail in Houston. So we're feeling good about that. In addition, the cars have been ordered. We now have completed our order for cars, some from the Utah Transit Authority.
Right, this is where we piggybacked on their contract,
and then
right?
some directly with actually the same car company that was contracted last year. But the difference is this year we did the contracting right.
Okay.
And I think that it's a very successful acquisition of cars.
That's with CAF?
That's with CAF, the Spanish car company. And the final piece is the federal grants. That process starts with working with the Federal Transit Administration. After they're happy with the application, they then send it to the Secretary of Transportation and the Office of Management and Budget, all that.
Right.
And then when all that's finished, they send it to the Congress and they say, it's our intention in 60 days to sign contracts with the Metropolitan Transit Authority for a total of $900 million in grants to support their rail projects.
That's terrific. And that comes in stages. The money comes in stages. We don't just get one lump sum of $900 million.
We anticipate by the end of the current fiscal year, which is September 30th of next year, we'll have been reimbursed about $250 million at least of our expenditures on the system. So
That's
we're very
great.
pleased about that. That helps a lot towards getting the projects completed.
So what's the timeline for when a passenger can actually hop on one of those trains and ride the new rail lines?
I'm saying right now that it looks quite possible that the North Line will be finished at the end of 2013, fairly close to the original schedule.
Okay.
I think that the Southeast Line will finish probably in the first or second quarter of 2014.
Okay.
The East Line will be finished all the way to Altic Station, which is just at the railroad tracks, by probably early 2014. Now, the community asked that we build an underpass at the rail tracks instead of taking the train over. And the City of Houston came up with a substantial amount of additional money and sent a request and said, we're willing to pay for it, but we would like you to take the train and the cars all under the tracks.
Okay.
So that underpass is going to probably take 18 to 24 additional months to complete. It'll be a system.
Right.
People will be able to go from the east side of town to the Texas Medical Center or down to Reliant for a game. People from that part of town down south will be able to come up and go either all the way north to the North Line Community College, out to University of Houston. It's going to create a spine along which we can then align bus routes and other support services so there's better mobility for everybody.
George, let's talk about the budget. We recently passed the 2012 budget. What sort of changes will passengers and riders see?
Well, the most important thing is something they won't see.
Okay.
They won't see a fare increase.
That's good.
Despite the difficult economic times and despite the economic challenges Metro's facing, we've chosen for the second year in a row not to institute a fare increase. Okay. We're very pleased about that. What we'll see is, number one, we're going to continue to deliver what we call smart service. So I think they're going to start seeing different ways of delivering service, not always in a bus.
Okay.
It might be a smaller vehicle, maybe in a van, it may be a taxi voucher. We're going to be looking for whatever makes the most sense in a particular area because we want to stretch our dollars.
Okay.
Number two, we're going to build this rail system. So there'll be a lot of rail construction. We'll be very busy with that. Number three, we're making changes within the authority itself. We're a little bit smaller than we were last year. We've eliminated something over 60 positions on the salaried side of the house. We're going to continue to look for ways to improve performance and to recognize good individual performers. Our Metro MBA program, our in-house training program, will continue. And then finally, we're really going to position ourselves for the future. So we're looking at long-term financial planning. We're looking to make sure we have a long-term capital plan. We want to make sure that the assets we're creating today are ones we can maintain 10 years from now. So we want to make sure that we know what it's going to cost us to do that. We're trying to get a better handle on where the agency could go. And then we have to work with the community to decide where the community wants us to go. That's all part of this long-range planning update that we've been involved with.
The Metro Vision.
Absolutely. Asking people, what's your vision for transit in the Houston region? What would you like to see transit look like in Houston 10 years from now?
Is the funding so tight these days, you know, with our budget, everything going on with the economy, recession that doesn't seem to go away, that it's harder to build transit now than, say, you know, back in the days of, like when we ever get to days like Chicago or New York or Boston, you know, we travel and you hop on the train, you hop on the bus, and it's no big deal, it's easy. Will it ever be like that, George, here, maybe 20 years from now, 30?
I think that the community is poised to make some very good decisions about having a truly robust transit system. Right now, our transit system, as good as it is, doesn't serve everyone to the degree it should. It's not everywhere it should be. There are going to be some conscious decisions that are going to need to be made by the community about the kind of transit it needs. I believe the community wants to see more transit. I think they want a more specific plan that they can judge. I think we can give that to them. And then the community's got to make some choices. If they do, I think we can give them a transit system that is very, very good for this community.
George, you didn't have to take this job when it was first offered to you, but you chose to take it when it was in a very challenging position, really. You had embroiled in lawsuits and all sorts of things. Do you remain hopeful that, you know, you'll get to see what you set out to accomplish here at this agency, and that overall for Houstonians we'll see the kind of world-class transit we want?
I'm more optimistic now maybe than I was last year. I'm always optimistic, which is kind of strange because sometimes I think I'm not optimistic. But the fact is that it seems to me that, you know, last year I think there was a real question as whether we'd ever get those federal funds. Well, we're on the cusp of seeing that money start to flow. I think there was a real question as to whether we actually get those 3 lines built. I think everybody acknowledges now those 3 lines will get built.
Right.
I think there was a real question as whether we could start turning around community attitudes towards public transit in general and Metro in particular. We're nowhere near where we need to be yet, but clearly we've made a lot of progress. And I credit the people that work at the authority for that. The fact is, there's a great line. Winston Churchill talked once. He went speaking to the Canadian Parliament, and he was saying that he felt very, you know, he appreciated all the nice things people were saying about him and his leadership. He said, but, you know, the fact is the heart of England is in the people. I'm just, you know, the lion is the people. I'm just privileged to provide the roar. My privilege is to provide the roar. But the heart of this agency is in the people that are working here. And I think that if I've done anything in the last year, it's been to give those people a chance to roar on their own. And I think the community is starting to respond to that.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much for being with us, George. That's all for this edition of Metro Matters. Be sure to join the conversation on our blog, like us on Facebook, and follow us on Twitter. I'm Mary Sitt. Thanks for joining us.